Hey guys, welcome to the Smart Venture Podcast. In each episode, we're going to have conversations with some of the top investors, superstar founders, as well as well-known tech company executives in Silicon Valley. We'll have a coffee chat with them to learn their way of thinking and actionable tips on how they build or invest in a successful company. Before we start our show today, I want to make sure the listener, aka you, understand that everything a person say on the podcast only reflects hers or his own opinion, not the show or the company they work at. Our guest today is a VP of Workplace at Facebook. Under his leadership, Workplace serves more than 5 million paid users from companies including Walmart, Spotify, Nestle, Chevron, Grab, Booking.com, and many others. Prior to joining Facebook, he was a director of business development at Microsoft, where he created and launched the BizSpark program. He served on the board of French media group Le Monde. He invested in some of the fastest growing companies, such as the business of fashion. He is also the co-author of the Kaku.com success story. His name is Julien Codorniou. Welcome to the second part of the conversation with Julien. In the last episode, we talked about how Julien started his career in tech. In this episode, we'll focus on learning more about how Julien makes the most out of each opportunity and how he scales exciting initiatives at work. Please enjoy. What would you think are the three characteristics you have that your peers don't that make you more successful?
Well, I would not say that. I'm an executive in a big American tech company. I'm not an entrepreneur, or I don't run a charity. But as you said, I think the drive, the passion, the curiosity, the fact as well that I do something that is more of a hobby to me, because I really enjoy the work I do and the people I get to work with every day. That makes a difference. And if I have one advice for my kids, and I have two young boys, 9 and 13, I tell them to pick up a job which for them will be like a hobby, like going to the playground and play football with your friends. It's possible. You don't know it's possible when you go to school. No one tells you that, but it's actually possible. And I was just, I was lucky enough that what I've always loved became a big deal. Software in general, the software industry, startups, the financing of innovation and all of that. Everybody I know wants to have a startup now or wants to be an investor. But 20 years ago, I was, I did not know a lot of people who wanted to do that.
For sure. Passion is definitely a huge motivation for people to succeed. What are 3 technical traits you've picked up at a young age that is helpful for your current job?
Well, the current job is very different from the job I had, when I started, because I have to scale a business that we created within Facebook, which is a B2B/SaaS business. So the skill set that is required right now is more about scaling, being a good steward of the brand, keeping our customers, renewing our customers, building an ecosystem. It's very different. At some point in my career, I had to build. At some point, I had to scale. At some point, when I was at Microsoft, I had to protect something and play defense. So it's very different depending on where you're at in your personal journey and your professional journey. I'm sorry, Grace. I don't have 3 easy tips to share, but I think it really depends where you are right now. I don't think a lot of the things I've done are applicable or repeatable because it happened at a different time in a different company.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So going back to your story, after you left Microsoft, you went to work at Facebook. Since you had the experience of starting BizSpark at Microsoft, did you know that you wanted to do similar things at Facebook, meaning starting a quote-unquote startup at a big tech company? Or did the idea of Workplace came to you later on?
So when I started, I was supposed to be head of partnerships for France and Benelux for the Facebook platform. I was hired by a friend called Christian Hernandez. But very quickly, I realized there was an opportunity that Facebook was not tapping into, which was to leverage the EMEA gaming ecosystem. And I realized that a lot of the emerging gaming companies in Europe were either not leveraging the Facebook platform or not leveraging the Facebook advertising platform. And I met someone at Facebook who became my manager, who still is my manager for the last 9 years called Sean Ryan. And I told him, hey, I think we should do that. And he said, hey, we should do it. You should do it. Go and do it. And he gave me a team, gave me a runway, gave me an assist because he connected me with all the people he knew in the industry. And that's how we created a gaming business. And, I was talking about luck, but I was lucky to be at that time at Facebook when companies like, King.com, which is the developer of Candy Crush, or Wooga in Germany, or Playtika in Israel, or Supercell in Finland, were starting to build social games and mobile games. Again, it's all about having the chance to be at the right place at the right time with the right people, and all of that happened. And then from that, I ended up working with the Facebook platform in general and to do business globally. But I would say the first job I had for my first 5-6 years at Facebook was to manage the ecosystem of developers, building applications or monetizing applications on the Facebook platform. And I had the best time working with the gaming companies, just to see people like Ricardo and Stefan Kurgan, building Candy Crush and launching Candy Crush on the platform. It was a very exciting day. Or companies like Playtika in Israel and the whole shift to mobile. I felt a lot of things were happening there, and I felt at the very center of it. And I also love gaming as a gamer and as someone fascinated by the monetization of software. I learned a lot of things working with gaming companies that you could apply today, even in the world of SaaS that I live in right now.
After you created this global ecosystem for developers and partners for gaming, overseeing Europe, at what point did you start Workplace? You mentioned that you met the right coworker. That person encouraged you to start Workplace. What was the first steps you took to start something at a big tech company like Facebook?
So Workplace was not my idea. It was originally a product that was built for Facebook employees, and that was supposed to be only for Facebook employees. But I think back in the days, and our CEO was obsessed with the concept of, and he's still obsessed with the concept of connecting people, giving a voice to everyone. At home, of course, with your friends and your family, but also at work. And actually, the time you spend engaging and communicating with people at work is sometimes even bigger than the time you spend doing it at home. So someone looked at bringing that product to the market and turning that internal product that we built for us and only for us into a product that we would sell to other companies. And I guess because I was in London, which is where the product was built, and also because I worked at Microsoft before, and so I had done some SaaS stuff before, and I don't think we had many people like that in the company. I was asked by my manager to go and see if it could be a thing, and if we could turn the product into a business. And I have to say, at first, I wasn't sure Facebook would be able to build SaaS stuff and to sell SaaS stuff. But very quickly, when I saw the reaction, the adoption, the retention of the early customers we had, from companies like Club Med and Danone or Booking.com, Spotify as well, or the government of Singapore or Walmart, when I saw the early signals, I told myself, wow, that we can be disruptive. We can build a SaaS product, a communication product to everyone, including people who never had an email before, people who never had a desk. And we could ship software that people will use and love to use. And if you look at the world of SaaS, you see a lot of companies that have been doing a lot of crappy applications for too long, making too much money. And I told myself, we can change that. We have great engineers. We just have to build a B2C business within the B2C company. And I told myself, it's a good opportunity for me, for my team. And I decided to jump in and to bet on the startup.
I think it's such a bold move for you and Facebook, especially now during COVID. I can totally see everyone's company using this product. I bet you guys are riding a big wave now, but back in time when you started, it was probably not that obvious. Since Facebook was trying to connect the world, it seems like supposed to be social and fun, and you're connecting with friends and family. I feel like it's a big jump for you and your company. There were a lot of big brands quickly adopted Workplace. What was the go-to-market strategy? Were you primarily focusing on targeting big companies, big tech companies, or small startups? What was the initial plan for the launch?
So we did not have any go-to-market strategy. We knew that the product worked very well at Facebook. So we knew that one company, ours, was in love with the product and could not ever work again without the product. So we just needed to find another one. Ideally people who are not associated directly with Facebook, who could be neutral about the product. So we spent a lot of time, and you would not believe how long it took to find the first company who decided to say, you know what, I love the product, I'm going to buy it and deploy it for everyone. And then we found another one, and then another one. And then we started scaling a bit more. And one day we had a big bank in London, in Scotland, sorry, the Royal Bank of Scotland, NatWest, basically told the world, hey, we're going to deploy that thing to 80,000 people. And that put us on the map. And because we had a bank in Europe, we had a few other banks in Europe, and we had a few other big European companies like Telenor, for example, in Norway, or Danone in France. And because we had, these first flagship brands who gave us credibility, it quickly accelerated. That's how we got Walmart, that's how we got Starbucks, that's how we got AirAsia, that's how we got NAB in Australia, or Mercado Libre and Banco do Brasil in Brazil. But there was a domino effect. But when we started, Grace, we just needed one. And then we needed another one. Then we wanted 5 more, then 10 more. We really had to prove, and also to earn the right to serve, companies with IT software, and to serve HR, IT, and comms, just like Microsoft, or just like, Slack or Dropbox have been able to do. But we did not have the same credibility when we started. And we were starting from scratch almost. Even if we were starting within Facebook, we were starting from scratch when it comes to building the SaaS muscle to go to market and to serve the people we wanted to serve.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about the branding effect. It shifts people's original opinion of Facebook from a social-driven app to a mixture of SaaS and social. I guess connecting the world can be happening at work too. So who was the first client of Workplace, and how did they heard about it?
I think the first client was a company in Paris, the company of a friend called My Little Paris. The CEO, Fanny, she's a fantastic entrepreneur. She was a friend, and somehow she, after many calls, she decided to go Workplace, as we say, and turns out she was the perfect CEO for Workplace. That's the company she created for her employees were like family. She's the type of CEO who said, very early, happy employees equals happy customers equals happy business. And so we knew that she would love our value proposition, to give a voice to everyone, to reduce the distances between people. So I think she was the first, but then quickly other companies followed in other regions as well. But I think it was the first launch I went to, because back in the days we used to have launches and we used to go there. But I think it was the first one. And when you have one, then you have unlimited confidence. You just need one. Until you have one, you don't know. When you have one, and when you have the right stats in terms of adoption, satisfaction, engagement, you're going to get many more. But the first one is extremely hard.
Wow, that's so cool. I guess that lady has great exposure to Facebook's work community. I didn't even know you can ask to use another company's internal tool in your own company. Is there a company size limit for using Workplace? If a listener wants to reach out to Workplace, where should they go?
Well, you can just sign up on the website. You'll get a phone call within minutes.
Wow.
We have that now. But we also have an ecosystem of partners helping us to bring Workplace to the market, from PwC or Deloitte to smaller SaaS boutiques like Revevol or Service Rocket or Enablo or historical SaaS players like Crayon. There is an ecosystem now, so it's pretty easy to get Workplace. But I think, in terms of size, I would say Workplace starts working when you have people working from different offices. If everyone is in the same room every day, which doesn't happen very often today, I don't think Workplace is perfect. But the minute you have people on different time zones, speaking different languages, working from different offices, Workplace is magic. Because it allows people to work sync and async. Of course, there's no training needed. 3 billion people know how to use Workplace overnight. And it does that job brilliantly, reducing the distance and feeling part of a connected community. So it's not so much about the size. It's about the organization of the company, and the more distributed it is, the better it is. And having different languages really help. On Workplace, I could do a live video in French and you would see the subtitles in English. I could write in French and you would see the subtitles in English or in Chinese. And I think it really helps to connect people who should be working together, but who do not even know they have to work together, and who could not work together because they speak a different language.
When you're trying to scale the business, you signed with a lot of well-known companies as clients, including Walmart, Box, DocuSign, Danone, you name it. How does a deal happen? Who do you talk to first? Would it be the CEO or CIO? How do you establish the relationship with them? Also, based on the company size, what's a different pricing model for bigger or smaller companies?
Of course, we do volume discounts. The price on the website is $4 per month per user for Workplace. And we do get inbound, and we also do a lot of outbound. So a lot of people come to us and say, hey, I've heard, from Workplace, I've heard about Workplace from companies like Spotify or Booking or Walmart or Heineken or GSK or AstraZeneca, and I want the same thing for my company. And we, of course, take care of that. But we also spend a lot of time explaining the importance of connecting everyone, of turning the company to a community. We started with big names and big logos because we felt we needed them to create our credibility in the SaaS industry. When you start and you have 0 customers and then you try to sell a Workplace to the CIO of AstraZeneca, if you don't have other regulated companies, it's going to be really hard. But when you walk into that meeting with more than 5 million paying subscribers and the logos of the companies I just mentioned, from GSK to AirAsia via Petco or Chevron in the US, people look at you differently. So we knew we needed these logos, these stories, these endorsements from customers. We knew we needed all the security and privacy certifications you would expect from a credible SaaS vendor. Because once you have the big guys, the big companies, it's easier to get the small companies, because the small companies and the buyers from the small companies look at how big companies spend their money. But we had to start there because we had to build our credibility from scratch. And when you get to serve the people we get to serve today, from regulated industries or regulated companies, no one questions your ability to serve them.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's really hard to imagine even Facebook has to choose the right client profile to build a brand in SaaS, since it's already a really famous company.
No, it's important, because Facebook was not famous for that when we started. That was not the product we built. That was not the business model we had. Facebook was famous for doing something else, which in terms of business model was to serve advertisers to reach their audiences and their customers online. Workplace is very different. We sell to IT, we sell to HR, we spend a lot of time working with people in internal communications. So we had to get famous. And it started by winning our first customers one by one, which was fun, and I think it's the same thing that probably Amazon did when they created AWS, or Google did when they started G Suite. It has nothing to do with their original products or business model. But you buy these products because you know that behind you have a ton of engineers, a great infrastructure that is reliable, and that we scale with a passion for products and a passion for customers. So we were not the first company doing that, but it was definitely interesting to do it. And of course, we've done a lot of mistakes. A lot.
In terms of business development, how do you quickly build up relationships with companies you didn't interact with in the past? We could use maybe Walmart or any big company as example. What's your first approach with the chief HR officer? Do you send them an email says you want to open a business line? How do you quickly become a trusted partner?
Well, I don't think we were famous when we started, but we did a lot of PR and press when we announced our first customers. So suddenly Workplace, was associated with a software application that can really connect everyone, including frontline employees, that had a lot of traction in hospitality, in retail, with airline companies as well. So because we made a lot of noise when we started signing these big customers, a lot of prospects came to us. And that's how we got to talk to Walmart, who actually was very keen on building a community with all of their employees, of reducing the distance, of scaling the culture or changing the culture. And, I did not have any particular connection with them, but I think they were interested in our value proposition. And we were very keen on working with them and on learning, what it takes to serve a customer like Walmart, who's, very demanding because the stakes are super high. and to do something that no one has done before, which is a mega SaaS deployment. So we try to be extremely reactive. We try to show passion for our customers, for their people, for their industry. And, the blessing of my job is to be able to be exposed to some of these amazing companies and to see how they work and to see how they think about, the current situation, how they think about employee engagement, employee sentiment, how they drive employee retention with software, how they bring HR and IT together. One of the companies I get to work with a lot is, WW, formerly known as Weight Watchers. And just being able to see Mindy Grossman at work and how she runs the show from the outside is just, it's unbelievable. I would pay for that. And that's, that we are in a position to be able to do that and to serve people like that, leaders like that. And it's fantastic. And it's a privilege, but it's a big responsibility as well.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of your job. I wish, in 20 years, I want to get to where you are today. So it sounds like it's such a fun job to have. And I'm curious about, who is on your personal board of advisor? Like, who do you pick your brain?
Many people, many people. A lot of the people I mentioned earlier. A lot of the people, I share some investments or some boards with. Someone like Xavier Niel, for example, in France, has been, more than a sponsor to me, and I spent a lot of time at boards, watching him, observing him, trying to understand how he worked, or sometimes asking advices and stupid questions. Even at Facebook, Nicolas Mendelsohn is an amazing partner, an amazing friend, an amazing mentor. So I'm surrounded by people like that. It's hard to give you an exact list, but I have plenty. I would say I have more than 100.
If you were going to start your career all over again in today's age, what would you do?
Well, if inside of me, I'm a frustrated entrepreneur wannabe. I wish I had, the guts to create my own company, the courage to create my own company, and to go all in, and I did not do it. And doing it within Facebook is very different. It's not the same thrill. It's not the same upside. It's not the same risk. I have very patient shareholders, and you don't have the same thrill than when you create your own company. But if I could, I would go back in time and create my own company. Even if the idea is not great, just to learn, just to see what it's like to do it for real.
Yeah, absolutely. You're already a really good entrepreneur within your organization. I think starting a company outside of a big company is just hard in a different way. What you have accomplished is already really respectable. Curious, what stopped you from creating your own company back then?
I just didn't have, an idea I was passionate about. And I keep thinking about stuff, but I don't come up with good ideas. I can tell a good idea or kind of a good idea when I see one, but it's usually not coming from me. But as an investor, this is what I would say I do. But I just did not find something that convinced myself to go all in and to jump in.
But I think what you have accomplished today is incredible, and it's probably a lot of entrepreneurs' dream.
It's very different. I'm an intrapreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not sure entrepreneurs would love the job I have, because I'm still doing it in the comfort and the structure of a big listed tech company. And the other way around, I'm not sure I would be a good entrepreneur, because again, I've done it in the very special context with very patient shareholders who have a passion for our mission and who are okay to let us try something very new and to let us fail for a few quarters.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of entrepreneurship, instead of starting a company, I saw that you invested in a lot of companies, including my favorite, the business of fashion. I believe you met the founder through Felix Capital. Tell us more about your investing experience. You started your career working at a VC or accelerator. Now you experience working at your dream companies and are investing again. It came full circle. How do you feel?
It's very simple. You meet someone like Imran, the founder of Business of Fashion, and the only thing you want to tell him is, take my money and let me invest in the company.
Oh my God.
It's that easy. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to understand finance or fashion, especially fashion for me. sometimes you see people like that and they are onto something. And maybe they are wrong, maybe it will not work, but you just want to be part of it. And I met Imran via Frédéric, the founder of Felix Capital, in 2013, I think. And after 2 minutes, I was like, okay, whatever he's doing, I want in. And he was nice enough to accept the investment. And it was already a big deal back in the days. It was already a reference publication. And it turns out I also have a passion for media. I'm at the board of Le Monde. I spend a fortune in press, in online media, and I do believe in the monetization of media. And I think Business of Fashion illustrated that. It's high quality content from the best possible journalists in their field with a very clear business model. It's the type of things, if you're in the industry, you have to pay for it. So someone told me one day, same thing with the FT. If you work in my field, if you don't read the FT every day, you're dead. And I think it's very true. And you have to pay for it. And I think the same thing with Business of Fashion, if you're in fashion. But there was nothing sophisticated. I just met the guy. The guy is next level, A+ student, and you only pray to have a chance to be part of his journey and to observe what he's going to do.
Wow, that's such a high compliment. What was the 2 minutes like? What do you see in him? Was it the hunger, or was he just super smart?
It's everything. I mean, I'm sure you've heard him, and that's usually a good investment thesis. But the leadership, the vision, the execution, the obsession for quality, for details as well, and just the content itself and the business model associated to it. Again, I don't know what it will become, but what I knew is that I wanted to be part of the journey in a very small and modest and humble way, but just being a small passive investor. But some people are like that. It's almost like a crush.
How do you? Is there a lot of financial return already, or was it just because of you're so interested in this space that you didn't really care about the financial?
No, look, the company grew since I invested.
Of course,
it's too early to tell, and it's the same thing with most of the investments I've done. We will only know in many, many years if it was a good idea or a terrible idea to do investments. But it allows me as a guy working for a big tech company to have one foot in the world of entrepreneurship and the different ecosystem. And I think it's important to stay connected. And I'm very grateful that Facebook lets me do it. Whether it's the board of Le Monde, the newspaper, or to do such investments. But I think it's important to be connected to what's happening in the world of entrepreneurship and startups.
You and I are both big fans of the media space. What do you see as a big trend?
I'm very optimistic. I invested in a company called Curio, for example, who's monetizing podcast by turning written articles into podcasts. I'm very optimistic because I think the world is full of free, crappy media. And I think people deserve better and people want to pay for better. I love to see what's happening with Substack. I love to see what's happening with media like The Information, and I think high quality journalism will be rewarded. And I think if you understand the game of monetization on many different platforms of content in many different ways, could be text, could be audio, could be video, I think you have a bright future because the world is hungry for high quality journalism. But you have to pay for it. You don't get it for free.
Julien, we're at the last part of our interview today. I have some fire rounds for you. What's your favorite book?
It's a tough question. I would say a book that really had a non-business book, of course, that had a big impact on me was, I don't know the name in English, so I will send it to you. But it's Vendredi by Michel Tournier. Great book that I really loved. Favorite business book. It's not a business book per se, but it's a book from Michael Lewis called The Undoing Project, about the birth of behavioral economics. I love Michael Lewis. I try to read every single word the guy is publishing, but this one I really loved.
Yeah, totally. All his books are just super insightful, I feel like. What Who would you invite to your dinner party?
It's a very tough question. It's gonna sound stupid, but I would probably say Bill Gates.
Wait, who?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
The Microsoft Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation Bill Gates. I think the two profiles are interesting, and I had the opportunity to meet him at Microsoft and later, and I think he's just a fascinating person, and I would love to understand, how he works, what he's interested in, what he's doing right now with the foundation, where he thinks COVID is going, and all of these questions. I feel he has a lot of answers to a lot of questions, and I have a lot of questions.
Where can we find you outside of work?
So I have two kids, so it takes a lot of my time, watching them, playing football and going through life. So I'm usually seen with my kids and my wife around London. I play squash as well. I run a bit as well. So I have many distractions. I read a lot as well. Nothing too crazy, but I would say it's pretty balanced. I think I see many people, being in tech, only doing tech stuff with tech people all the time. I think it's important to have something else and to not be completely swamped into the world of tech and what's happening there, because it's a bubble. And there are many important things that are happening outside of that bubble. And I try to be outside of the bubble as much as possible, even if it's my job and my passion.
Yeah. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
I would say it's a guy called Mark Jalabert, who kind of hired me at Microsoft, and who immediately after I joined gave me massive opportunities, things that I was not ready for, things I was not qualified for. And without nothing, he blindly trusted me with important stuff. And it kept bringing more opportunities. So I owe a lot to Mark, but I also owe a lot to the people I've been working at Facebook. Sean Ryan or Dan Rose, Nicola Mendelsohn. I owe a lot to many people. At some point, I'll have to pay back.
Yeah, it's incredible that you could position yourself in a great cohort. Last question. What's your information diet? Besides books, what else do you consume? It could be newsletter, website, podcasts.
No, it's a long list. I spend a fortune every day in press online. I wake up in the morning, I read the FT, paper edition, that is delivered at home. I read Le Monde on my iPad. I read Le Figaro, French newspapers. I read, I subscribe to The Information. I subscribe to Business Insider. I'm subscribed as well to the Wall Street Journal. I subscribe to Society, to The Economist. I buy a lot of press and I read a lot of press. That's the one thing I learned from my dad. He was buying everything. Like, he would come back every day with everything. Everything you could buy in the newspaper shop. Literally everything. And so it gave me some curiosity and different perspectives. I like to read newspapers from the liberal side and newspapers from the conservative side. And I think it's important to do it. So I can send you the list, Grace, but it's a very long list, and I have unlimited budget for high quality journalism. And I'm always extremely happy to pay for high quality journalism. Yeah.
Julien, thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Grace, for the opportunity, and congrats again for running a great show.
All right, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Smart Venture Podcast. If you like it, please leave us a quick review and hit subscribe so you don't miss any tips from the experts. If you want to receive our updates, please leave your email at smartventurepod.com. If you want to connect with me, all my socials are at Grace Gong GG. Besides LinkedIn, it's just Grace Gong. I'd love to connect with you and let me know your thought about the show. Now, you can also listen to Smart Venture Podcast on YouTube. Go to smartventurepod.com, click the YouTube link on the top banner. Don't forget to hit subscribe and smash the like button. See you next time.